having an institution automatically means not telling the truth. And the reason that is because every institution starts because of the truth they tell. You understand? Think of any institution. It was because they were onto something. Like there was a truth there. And it was so true and so important that they built a whole organization around it, which might have, quite a few employees, it's true. But the thing is like this, the world is dynamic. The world's dynamic. It's always changing. Nothing stays the same. But the problem is institutions are like built all around one, thing, whatever it may be, feed the poor or like, Jewish literacy or whatever that institution's about. And it will be generally everyone rallying around a flag. But the world's dynamic. And so that flag eventually must come down and another flag must be raised or who knows what, because things are dynamic. Problem is you built a whole top-heavy institution or top-heavy government rallying around things that are no longer true. Meaning it's just not the same landscape that you created the thing for. Different landscape, things have changed. And what happens is, in a perfect world, the top will stay fluid. The top, meaning whoever's running the thing, will stay fluid. He'll be easily deposed. And U.S. government's been built like this, as Jordan Peterson said, you can't do too much damage before the next party, meaning Democratic, Republican, until the next party is already in office. Because of the damage you did, like then it flips, and then they can't do too much damage until the next party comes. And flips it again, and nothing ever gets done, which is perfect, because as long as everyone doesn't kill each other, we're doing okay. And so, anyway, but institutions to stay true need to stay fluid in order that the top isn't necessarily a top, but it allows the bottom to trickle up. Because who are the people at the bottom? People at the bottom are the people who have their finger on the pulse of humanity, the finger on the pulse of society, and finger on the pulse of reality. It's not the people in their fancy offices that know what's going on. It's the people down below. This is why so many, for example, it's kind of a crazy example, but this is why so many bands, only their first album was great. Because, why? Because they were on the streets. Bands are on the streets, struggling musicians, starving musicians, and they're on the streets, and they wrote songs that talked to the people. And then what happened was, now they're in fancy cars, and they're like movie stars. They're driving Cadillac cars and smoking big cigars, and they're no longer on with the pulse. They're no longer on the pulse of the people. So they come up with their second album, and it just like bombs, It bombs. No one's in. You know how many rock bands only had one hit album? And it was the first album?
It's very impressive. Any band that, like their third, fourth album, they're still writing related
Yeah.
stuff.
Some are just, well, they stay on the streets. They stay on the streets. And even though they got the money, they didn't get off the streets where the pulse is. Anyway, so that's what I was saying, is every institution's automatically kind of the evil empire by nature.
Do you think there's a way to build something without that happening to an institution?
Without what happening?
Without that happening? Without it turning...
Oh, well, you build it that you're always on the streets, meaning you're constantly in touch with the streets.
You have to make sure the leadership's speaking to the people.
Sure. And the other thing is, if it's a tax-deductible organization, it's 10 times more of an issue. You would think tax-deductible organization would be purer than a business. This is how businesses rise and fall, is they lost the pulse of the customers. But if you're a tax-deductible institution, meaning you're a charity organization, meaning that receives charity, well, what happens is you wind up flattering the rich. You're spending your whole time, when your schedule's just packed, everyone at the top are spending all their time on golf courses. Talk about losing the pulse. You completely lose the pulse. And what are you doing the whole time? You're interviewing the people on the golf course to find out what they're interested in. But those people are never interested in what your institution was interested in. They're never interested in what the people in the streets are interested in. They have different interests. And so what do? You start reorganizing your institution around them. And so that's why it's always a slippery slope, institutions. And just the last thing that really kills it. This is all preview of my class next week called The Revolution. I have a class called The Revolution. It's going to be on 1:15. There's a whole program next week on Sunday. Anyway, the other, then you know what really kills it? Is when the leader is always this dynamic influencer. He's always this amazing guy. What happens is he dies. You can't live forever. So in every business, in every institution, in every organization, the leader dies. Eventually he dies. So who do they replace him with? There's no one like him. So do they take the flow meister, who's probably yes with his finger on the pulse, or they take the structure meister, who's all about structure? Who are they going to put in charge? A guy who's flowing with the trippers, or a guy who's like, knows how to schedule things and keep a schedule? Who do they get? The flow guy or the structure guy to lead? They always make this terrible mistake and put a structure guy in charge. And at that point, that's the final blow. That's a stab right in the heart of the organization, then it dies. You put a structure guy in charge of an organization, you killed that organization. Because human beings aren't structure. Human beings aren't structure. Human beings are flow. That's human. Watch people. They're all over the place. They're like, you've got to be. You can only have someone lead an organization who is equally structure and equally flow, which is a super rare person, 1 in a million type person, who's equally both. And that's who always winds up leading these organizations, because they're these incredible people. But if there's not someone following up, so they put his son in charge, who was which son? The son who was like totally structured, Mr. Principled, and then it's dead. DOA, dead on arrival. The thing's killed within months to years. It is gone. And the smart person gets off that boat way before it sinks. Get off that boat. I mean, do your best to keep it from sinking. But if it's going down, man, if it's gotten beyond the critical, the critical point where it's going down, get the hell off the boat. Get the hell off that boat and go find a boat that sails.